All right, welcome back. I have my unicorn Comanche sitting here, and Shanna and I have a few projects to work on with this thing. If you remember when we were at Vern's, we did all the fuel lines, injectors, even put a new regulator in. And what's funny is the Jeep ran good sometimes, and then sometimes it doesn't. It's like it has a miss every now and again, and then other times it's running good. So what I want to do is see if we can figure out what our problem is exactly. So it's not pulling any check engine codes, and one of the issues with the Gen 1 style OBD connectors is you really kind of just throw parts at it and hope you fix it. Here is my pile of parts. And if you can't tell, I think my FedEx guy hates me.
I have a package for you.
Sounds broken. What I have in here is just a tune-up in a box, basically. New cap, rotor, wires, plugs. The reason I want to start there is this is a 1991. Who knows when the last time any of this stuff was changed? If you remember how the injectors look, probably been a while. Hey, you don't see that very often. Made in the USA. Unplug that coil. There we go. These don't look too bad. The cap looks rougher than you'd think, actually, on the inside here. That's actually pretty rough. But the reason why it doesn't look too bad is because I went to town in here with the pressure washer, too. Goodbye, Rhoda. Oh, yeah, it's a little faded. With my tune-up kit, my new cap, rotor, and wires, we also got plugs. It came with NGK plugs. I just bought this online as like a whole set. It's like tune-up in a can. In this case, tune-up in a box. I need to get a new 5/16 spark plug socket because spark plug sockets have those little rubber rings in them that hold on to the spark plug, and I lost it somewhere. The electrode is sitting out like this. Like that's you guys probably can't see that in the camera, but it is rough. Wowzers. Probably has 100, maybe the whole 200,000 miles on it. That one was only threaded into there. So we had a nice big gap. The electrode on it is also bent. One of them was straight. Kind of curious if this thing was arcing off on the block if it wasn't even in all the way. I just pulled this one out. It is completely collapsed. Like somebody pulled it out of the box. It had been smashed. Like this is probably the way mine look because of, my FedEx guy hates me, but that can't even be arcing. Like that's completely closed in onto the electrode. All right, this spark plug was this loose from the get-go. Like no tension on it, which tells me that it wasn't put in all the way either. So we've had a collapsed one. We got two of the electrodes are all twisted out on them, and two that weren't even tight, so they weren't even in all the way, which then leads me to believe that there's only one good one. Okay, so this one's good from the looks of it up here, other than it doesn't look like it's been arcing well. And then you can see where it's been arcing off the side. So yeah, 5 out of our 6 spark plugs were bad. I gotta call Vern and just tell him about this, because this is insane. Because I remember I mentioned to him, I'm like, I think when I get home, I'm gonna do plugs and wires, and he's like, I never even thought about that. This could be our issue. This could be our miss. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of an information section right here because of these spark plugs. Number one, if you have an iridium style spark plug like this, don't try to put a gapper in there that's gonna bend the iridium. Secondly, when you do gap your spark plugs, you need to gap every one. Do not trust the auto parts store that says, oh no, they're all pre-gapped, because you need to actually check them manually and make sure that they're gapped. This info is brought to you by, I got a mechanic friend that can do it cheaper. I like to put a little anti-seize on my spark plug threads before I throw them in after I've gapped them. That just helps. If you ever take them out again, you'll thank me. Should I just leave this spark plug loose because it's hard to get to at the back of the head? There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and check and just make sure that I wired this thing up right. It sounds way smoother now. I mean, just crispy, crispy clean. Well, that was almost like all the cylinders were igniting like they're supposed to, and we had proper combustion in all 6. All right, so some of you guys might be wondering, what is the plans for this thing? You said you're going to build it for Easter Jeep Safari, and yes, we are. We got to hurry because there's not a lot of time, and I want to get started on the world's smallest record. So the first thing I kind of want to do is we are going to get our wheels and tires together so you guys can get an idea of what the plans are for this thing. If you guys have been following along in our adventures for the last few years, or this channel for this last year, because it's a year old now, then you know that I'm a huge fan of the Milestar MT02s. These things are the black label stickies. These are 37s. We got to put these on the Comanche. Now, with that being said, you guys might recognize these. These were actually off of my Rat's Nest XJ, the Cherokee I built a few years back on Bleepin' Jeep. These are my Raceline monsters. They have also been four-wheeled all over the country, from Pennsylvania to California and everywhere in between. I'm a huge fan of these beadlocks because they are stinking tough, and I want you to see how thick that ring is. I got Matt Wetzel hooked on those, and I don't think he's looked back. I know what you guys are thinking. 37s and a Dana 30, that's not a good combo. And you're right, that's not a good combo. They probably wouldn't survive, and I'd have to drive it like I have a Dana 30 on 37s. But you guys might remember this axle. I built this originally for the Pacer. All that stuff, you know, went to the wayside. So now I have this awesome built, Yukon addressed Dana 44 that's set up to go under a Jeep. Minus these fancy coilover brackets. So why not put the ultimate Dana 44 under my ultimate unicorn? And my buddy Pat was cleaning house and gave me this Dana 60, which came out of a 1979 Ford Highboy. I actually checked the numbers. It's the nice thing about those Dana axles. So we have one axle we got to modify it a little bit, turn it back into 8-lug. We got another axle we got to build completely. We got some wheels and tires we got to put on, and a suspension to address. Along with, we need to toughen up this unibody, especially at the front half of this cab. And Vern originally had a winch on here, so this front cross member is cut out. So after we plate this up, we need to beef this up as well. And we got a power steering link, which I think is probably part of this. And there's a bunch of other little things in here, but I'm gonna have to let you guys wait and see that. Let's get started getting some wheels and tires together. All right, drove the Comanche out, brought the tires and wheels in. Shanna's gonna help me do some beadlocks, because she loves doing beadlocks.
I do.
Glad somebody likes doing beadlocks. I love beadlocks, but I need a tire machine. That's what I need.
They make me feel strong.
One of the things that I like about the MT02s is they have a raised edge lettering, and then they have like one that's not raised edge. So I actually kind of like having the raised edge out. I feel like I have just this extra little bit of traction when I have them on there. One of the things I love about putting on beadlocks versus a regular tire wheel is that I can slide it right over pretty easily. If you just take this, you can actually, if you're strong enough, done.
I can't do that.
Now we just gotta put the beadlock on. Alright. Beautiful. When you're putting on a beadlock ring, you want to crisscross it just like you would if you're putting the wheel onto the actual vehicle. And you just kind of crisscross it, and then we're going to torque it the same way. So you want to crisscross as you torque, and just keep working in an opposite direction pattern, get it torqued up, and then I like to do one full sweep after that and make sure that it's solid. Raceline recommends 16 to 18 foot-pounds of torque on your bolts. I might bump it up to a little bit, like 19, just because this is a used wheel and I've torqued it up 2 or 3 times. But it doesn't take much. It's actually a lot less than you think. And just like Shanna's doing right here, proper torque, you torque it, then you click it a few times, and then you torque it again. So you don't want to just do it one time, you want to do it 2 times to each bolt. Once she's went through the whole thing, then like I said, we'll run through one more time and just torque them all up, all the way around in case you missed a bolt, because with 32 bolts, there's a chance you missed one. All right, we got them all knocked out. One of the things to remember too with a torque wrench, proper tool etiquette is turn it back to 0 before you put it back away, and that'll help keep it in spec for longer. One of the things I want to show you guys is proper tire mounting. Out of all the shops I've ever went to, especially at tire stores, I've actually only seen one do it, and that's Treadworks here in Farmington. I've had them do quite a few tires for me, and their guys seem to know this. You have a yellow dot and a red dot on your tires. Now the yellow dot is where you're supposed to line up your valve stem. So you put your yellow dot in line with your valve stem. And the red dot is supposed to basically tell you where the heaviest part of the tire is. I've had really, really good luck with race line wheels and Milestar tires. I just bolt them on like my S10. I bolted them on, went all the way across the country, did all of Ultimate Adventure across the country, came all the way back. I've been down to Arizona. I've been up to South Dakota, obviously. All over this country with that thing on completely unbalanced tires, no beads, no weight. But I also mount my tires like this, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I don't know. And like I mentioned before, proper torque is real crucial to beadlock wheels. If you guys see people with broken bolts, that's usually because they over torqued them, and that can be just as bad as under torquing them. If you see them coming loose, that's usually because they're under torqued. And I aired up all these tires to 25 foot-pounds. Raceline does a really good job of building a nice flat wheel on the back side with a little ridge. I haven't had inner bead tire burping with Raceline wheels, so they do a really good job with that. I haven't had to tape them up like I do with like a steel wheel or something. I air them up to Raceline's recommended max of 25 PSI. I'll let them sit like that for at least a day, and that way that bead seats nice and good, and then I'll air them back down to like my 10 PSI that I drive on. That's gonna look rad. It's a good thing I held on to all the original 8-lug stuff from this axle, because, you know, like being a hoarder, it's not hoarding if your stuff is cool. I can change this axle back out to 8-lug pretty easily. With buying the truck, Vern actually gave me this tub that had all of this stuff in it. And it's just a bunch of like random things like tie rod ends and different miscellaneous stuff. One of the things that was in there though was this wing window. And I was like, that's a passenger wing window. And I knew that this one parked a little air on it, like it would burp air, but I wasn't sure why. I never really got into it. I figured maybe this hinge was bad, but actually it's down here. It's broke at this post. That thing whistles like a banshee at midnight, so I want to go ahead and get that thing changed out. And there's something else we need to do too. I just want to get this thing as roadworthy as possible before we start tearing into it, because once I start tearing into it, it's not going to move until it's time to probably go to Moab, and I'd hate to be like, oh yeah, I got to do this and I got to do that. So trying to get that part knocked out now will help me later. It's a really stiff. Shanna's trying to pull the hood latch, and it's crazy stiff here.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't happen.
You gotta have the mechanic fingers, I think. One of the other things I noticed is I got a few bare wires here. One here on the resistor, and then I got one down here as well on the harness. For some reason, this wire is just about chipped off. And the other day I tried to use the windshield washer fluid and nothing came out. There is a pump in that box, which makes me wonder if this pump's bad, but this pump looks new. Now there's no fluid in it, but I'm gonna go ahead and take it out and just check it and see if maybe it was leaking and that's why there's no fluid in it, or if Vern just never filled it up. Now when you're looking for screws, you grab whatever you can get. And I don't think Vern did this, but I have one Phillips screw and one flathead screw. So that's always cool. It was probably done by the same person that gapped these spark plugs. I want to see what happens here when I fill this up, if it starts leaking. Oh, well, it's going to leak from my pouring skills. Is that leaking down there? Yes.
It looks like it's pouring out.
It is totally leaking. Now we know. That ain't no good. Let's see if I can pour it back in. Not making too big of a mess. Probably not.
Taking bets.
Oh, I'm going to make a mess. Hand me the small one so you hope I can make a mess.
I'm taking bets. Nope. Will that fit in there?
All right, so I got the new pump. I added a rubber O-ring in here. I got my 22 millimeter socket so that I can put this filter sucker in there. Filter sucker, that's the appropriate proper name in case you're wondering too. I thought the problem was the actual rubber O-ring. I can look in here, and now that I've put a little pressure on it, there's a crack inside there. Means it's leaking, so I'm just gonna go find a new one. Probably aren't too expensive, I wouldn't think. All right, so I just spent the last like 20 minutes scouring the internet for an OEM replacement bottle, and all I found is other used ones, which I really don't want, or ones that are totally different, and I kind of want to keep the stock one. Like, I want the stock one in the stock place in the stock shape. So I'm gonna see if I can repair this thing, because I'm surprised with as many Cherokees and Comanches they made over the years that they don't have a direct replacement one. Like, that kind of blows my mind. All right, so I'm probably gonna get a zip tie and use that as some plastic filler, but for right now, I'm just getting this thing kind of snugged up, pushed back together. So I'm using just a wood engraver with heat on it, and that's all I'm using to just get this thing hot and kind of work it over the crack. Pretty simple really, but I just gotta get it hot enough to get it working, and then I'll come in back with, I'll just keep stopping it. It's pretty simple really. All right, so I went ahead and plastic welded all around it. And the biggest thing you need to remember when you do that is just pull from the material up too, so that you're actually integrating the plastic. So there are two different kinds of plastic, especially when you're using a zip tie. So you want to kind of blend it all together and just swirl it around. But we got a circle again, and it's not cracked. Take this wing window apart while I let that cool off. Does anybody else not like working with glass? I'm always worried I'm gonna break it. All right, didn't break it, part one. The wing window that Vern got with that doesn't have this little piece on it. So I'm gonna see if I can take it apart. There's a roll pin here. We'll see if we can get it without busting stuff. I decided to change directions. I have this small punch. Used to be about that long. The problem with small punches is they bend and then break. So I might have to go find another punch. Got it. All right. There we go. Yucko Rooney. Now, I hope you were all freaking out as much as I was using an impact to tighten that up, but I too like to live dangerously. There we go. Got it. So now that we've done the easy part, we need to get this post out of here, and we have to be able to put the new piece in, put the spring on, and bolt it up. So, gotta take the door panel off. And I forgot how little a room they give you, these unibodies. Well, there went that one. So just like everything else on this thing, plastic's just as brittle here, and that one went too. Cool. Think some water's ran down that since that thing was bad? Yuck. Go in your home. You too good for your home? Come on, you're so close. There we go. All right.
Nice.
Just close your eyes and feel it. It'll thread on itself. Using my sixth sense, sixth mechanic sense. I think I got it. I either got it or I cross-threaded it. All right, nothing like another danger section here. Have you guys ever over-tightened glass and then watched it shatter on you? It's so much fun. This is gonna take a while. All right, we now have a wing window. So one of the things I do is I keep stock in these little door clips because of the reason that they get brittle and break. So I had Shanna go upstairs, find a few of them. We're gonna put them in, and then we'll be golden. We got a window crank, door opener, locker thingy. We're done. All right, I tried putting the bottle back in before I put it in. I tested it. It's still leaking. So I think we're gonna make a salvage yard run because I'd like to try to find another bottle. And one of these little metal clip retainers is actually missing for the fuel injector. So last thing I want is for that to pop off while we're driving on the road. On top of this plug right here to the map sensor is broke as well. So I can always zip tie that together and keep it in, but if I can find that plug that's good, I might go ahead and pull that off and splice in a new one just so that it actually clips on and stays there. Like I said, we're gonna four-wheel it. I don't want stuff disconnecting, falling apart. Let's go to the junkyard. All right, we made it to the salvage yard. I got just enough tools, I think, to get what we need. We'll find out. This is the toolkit that came with the Comanche when I got it from Vern. And then I packed a socket and a little pry bar. So we'll see if that gets us all our parts. Here we go. Here's a chair car with a cowboy boot.
Oh, anybody need a boot?
Well, on to the next adventure, I guess. I didn't bring a Sawzall.
I found it.
Probably too old.
Oh.
There we go. Yep. Too old.
Darn it.
Got the old 2.8 liter V6.
Ugh. Squirrel. Colt found sidekicks. So sad.
It is sad. All the good parts are gone.
I found a jackpot. 2 sidekicks. Well, trackers. Trackers. We used to have a red 4-door. I found one. I don't know where Colt went. For such a big man, he's like a ninja. He just disappears so quietly. Baby! Colt! I found one, but I can't get it open. And I found 2 sidekicks. Ah, I stepped on it. Ooh! It's got one! It's got one!
Well, we got to start.
Yes.
That's a plus. This bottle looks good.
Yay! I'm so proud of myself. I found it.
So this was the first one we found. I put my pry bar on the hood latch to just pry on it, and Shanna was jumping on the hood and we were able to get it up. So I'll see if this one comes apart without snapping into pieces. And if anything, maybe we'll just try to buy 2 and then I have a backup, because like I said, I'm kind of surprised that like Onyx Ada or somebody doesn't make one of these. All right. We were able to find 2 of these, which is good. Both are Cherokee ones, so they have an extra pump on them that I won't need, but hopefully between one of them, they'll be good. Plus we got our injector clip and some window cranks. All right, we just made it back to the house. I think it's lunchtime. Let's eat. So I put the washer bottle back in, and then I had picked up my crank position sensor that I was gonna put on, because Vern had mentioned that he had melted it on the header and kind of fixed it, but it was fixed in the desert. I got this from O'Reilly's, and what I did when I picked it up is I just checked to make sure it was the circle style plug. Well, I just opened it up. Let me show you the problem. This has been bolted onto something already. It's been used. Somebody just tried to spray it down with brake clean. I'm not blaming O'Reilly's for this because, you know, their salesmen aren't like it. They just ordered the part and it showed up. But if you're the person that buys stuff and then returns the old part to get your money back, you deserve to get punched in the throat. Buy your part, be happy, put it on, be done. Person that did this, punch yourself in the throat, right in the throat. All right, Shannon and I just got back from the auto parts store. Truck's running good. I think I might have just a little bit of a loose connection at that one fuel injector plug. Even when I put that clip on, I just pushed it and then it like started idling better. So I might have to find one of those at a salvage yard as well. All the salvage yards are closed now. It's actually a longer distance to the auto parts store than people think. O'Reilly's didn't give me any issues. They're like, oh yeah, that sucks, we're sorry. And like I said, it wasn't any of their faults. Whoever returned it was just a jerk. They got another one, but it won't be here till Monday. It is Saturday today. You can see it's later in the afternoon. Little fun fact, when you work for yourself, you work every day. You just decide if you're gonna work from midnight to noon or noon to midnight. You just pick the 12 hours you're gonna work. And we're gonna call it today because it's Saturday and I'd like to take my wife out to eat somewhere nice. So we'll see what we're gonna work on tomorrow, but if I don't film on this, then we will see you guys Monday. All right, so it was actually nice to take a day off of work. We haven't done that in a long time. One of the things I found driving this thing the other day from the salvage yard was I put this injector clip on and it started running weird again. It started misfiring, and I just moved the wire over to this side and then it started running fine again. So I'm thinking that that's why that little metal clip was gone on it, is because they were testing that injector plug and it's really sloppy even with the clip on it. So I think we're gonna run to the salvage yard real quick and cut another one out that I can hot wire back into here and see if that fixes our misfire. Because when this thing's not misfiring, like, it runs like a stinking top. I think that's our issue. And right before I walked in here, we got a phone call and I got a special guest coming. All right, so we ran over to Aztec Auto Salvage. They had a Cherokee with a couple injector pigtails, so I went ahead and cut one off. We'll head back to the house because it's kind of chilly out today, and I can play with it a little bit. Because like I said, this one was tight on the injector, and my other ones are tight, but the one that I'm worried about is super loose. So I'm thinking that the inner little clips there are bad. We'll find out when we get back. We just got back to the house. My special guest is here. In case you're wondering who that is, that's my brother. So this is my brother's 2012 Toyota Tacoma. Him and his family do a lot of camping in it. He built this rad bumper for it, nice winch bumper. He wants to do a full fluid change front to back in this thing, but he lives up in Durango and it's blizzarding up there. That's why I like Farmington. So we're gonna see what we need to get it fixed. If you guys remember my brother, or if you haven't, that's him. Say hi, Chad.
Hello, Chad.
Oh yeah. Electric locker. So Chad is doing a full fluid change, front to back. He got the expensive oil here. They say it's the premium. He likes to treat his truck nice. So, we'll see.
At 100,000 miles.
Yeah, it smells burnt, I should say.
Darn.
Doesn't look horrible, but it definitely smells burnt.
Ooh.
Oh, that's the sound of your people. The front diff drained. Yeah, it smells about as good as the rear one. It's working. It's working.
A dad was sitting at the table helping do schoolwork with his son, and his son asks him, "Hey Dad, can you tell me what an eclipse is?" The dad says, "No, son." Get warm. Get warm.
Yep. All right, we got the rear diff, we got the front diff, we got the transfer case, and we drained the engine oil. One of the cool things about these 4 liters is it has the oil filter up there. So we routed a hose in here and zip tied it up. So we just drained it down. So going forward, when Chad needs to change his oil, he can just grab that hose, pop it down. When he pulls the oil filter, it has a little drain catch and it just runs it right down next to his pan. One down. My brother just left and it started snowing. And if you're familiar with Farmington at all, if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes and it changes. That was fast. So now that we got the Comanche back in, I want to go ahead and change that crank position sensor. Along with, last night I went to Harbor Freight, picked up some wheels. Oh yeah, got us some fancy casters. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I bought 4 of these. They're like 18 bucks a piece or something like that for these 10-inch off-road casters with greasable zerks. And I'm actually closer to Tractor Supply. They had the exact same ones at Tractor Supply. One of them at Tractor Supply was $75. I bought all 4 of those for $75. So, and I had ran over to Home Depot as well last night and picked up this wood, which I'll show you what we need to do with that here in just a sec. Let's go ahead and get this crank position sensor changed out. Ooh. So normally, if you're familiar with a 4-liter, the crank position sensor wire goes right behind the valve cover here, and then it gets loaded with oil when the valve cover leaks, and then the wires get bad, and then they crack and break, and then you have to do all kinds of work to them to make them work right, even when you put a new one in, because usually on the harness side it goes bad. This one Vern has rerouted over here and tied up with one of the vent lines. I actually like that idea a lot, as long as it stays away from the header, because he originally had it where it touched the header and then melted the wires, and that's why he was fixing it in the desert. But ever since I adjusted this plug right here and have pressure on it from this fuel rail, this thing's been running like a top. So I think that was 100% our issue with the inconsistent misfire. Either way, anybody that's ever worked on one of these knows for a fact that they don't want to be changing out a crank position sensor on the trail or anywhere other than in their shop. They probably don't want to be changing it at all, but if we're gonna do it, let's do it here. And this one has never been bolted up to anything. That's a win. All right, I got the bolts out. Now I can go ahead and take the plug off from here. Yeah, maybe. There we go. In case you've never done a crankcase position sensor, they sit right on top of the bell housing of the transmission. You get all the extensions that you own, a couple wobbles, and an 11 millimeter, and then you try to get in there, you wiggle it in, and you get the bolts out. Otherwise, you actually have to pull the cross member, drop everything down so you can access it a lot easier. But hopefully I got it out. We'll see if we can get it back in. When Vern rerouted this thing, he had a good spot for it, but it caught the header here. So that's where they have wired it back together. And he said this was a desert fix. He didn't trust it. It was working, but he didn't trust it. So figured, might as well just get a brand new one. We will put this in, zip tie it out of the way, and then maybe I'll tear this apart and see if we got a spare that we can hold on to. I don't know, we'll see. No room for my arm. All right, the wood is for this. We got to get it in the shop, and it's windy. So if you guys watched any of this series, then you know that I was going in a direction I didn't want to go, building it way I didn't want to build. The Pacer has a Jeep 4-liter and a 32 RH transmission. Neither one of which do I want for this car. And a lot of you guys always ask, Colt, how do you get your money to do stuff? I buy and sell, fix, repair, trade things. That helps a lot. Also try to stay budget minded. But if you're questioning it, please go back and watch some of the videos because I talk about all that stuff. For that, it's no different than this. I want to put a different motor, a different heartbeat in this thing, a different transmission in this thing, and we want to make it 2-wheel drive. So I already have the motor sold and the transmission sold. So we need to get the body off of this thing so we can get that drivetrain out of here, and then we can get paid. Fortunately, I made this body easy to pick up and lay down. That way I can go ahead and get it out of the way. Now we can roll this thing out because we need to pull this motor, this transmission, and everything here.
Out she goes. Sit.
While we have plans in the far future to build this again into a Baja car, I need that frame to be able to make the front suspension. So I don't want to have the car in the way to make all the frame mounts and cuts and mount all the coilovers and suspension and everything. So I want to keep the car off the frame. Plus we need to pull that motor and transmission. Thus, the wood. We're going to make a little wood frame. Not. now have a new wooden off-road frame. Look at that, nice and stout. Shouldn't have a lot of play in it, and it should be able to hold that on there. And then with this support board here, having it go in, if I need to strap the car down, I can strap it around that board or do something in the middle here. This is gonna go where the frame rails sit to catch those. AKA uniframe rail, whatever, because it's a unibody car. Yeah, it's on its own wooden frame. That's what I'm talking about. Super weird, but it works. It's definitely floppy and sloppy, but it's on there. All right, moment of truth. We're gonna see if this thing rolls out. I got Skylar here to help me, and we're gonna get up. You can just kind of try to steer it.
That one's not,
Yeah, she was the one serious, just holding the whole car.
this one's not turning.
Worked out pretty good. How about that? Oh yeah. Look at that.
Like a glove.
That worked out.
It's like perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Skylar.
Now I had to get all that done because once I get the Comanche in there on the lift, it ain't coming off for another month. We have literally 1 month from this video to get it ready and driving for Easter Jeep Safari. Plus you got to deduct a week for the Matt's Off-Road Games, so hope to see you guys there. I got this sweet present from a company called Hyperlight, and their website is high-hyperlight.com. They customize in LED lights for your shop and sick neon signs. Look at that radness. That is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna get this hung up. If you guys watch my buddy Chris from No Nonsense Know-How, he actually has one of their signs with his logo on it. So if you have a cool logo, cool design, something you wanna do, maybe check out Hyperlight and see what kind of rad stuff they can make you, because this thing is super awesome. I wanna plug it in and see what it can do. Check that out. That is rad. We're putting that on the wall for sure. All right. The cool thing about this is it has these little clips. So I drilled the hole, I marked my hole, I put the screw in, and then I can just thread this on to hold it, which is super neat. Like this idea. What's super cool about that is that's actually an LED neon light. So it gives you the neon look, but it's LED, so it's gonna last a lot longer, and it's extremely more affordable than neon. If you've ever priced out neon, it is insane. If you guys wanna get a rad sign or get super rad shop lights, maybe check out Hyperlight's website. It's kind of goofy to find though, but it's HI-Hyperlight, LITE.com. And if you use /Colt builds it, I'll add a link down in the description, along with I'll pin one in the comments. Check it out. If you want to get a discount code as well, you can also put in the code Colt builds it. What you guys don't see on this channel is the background stuff, and I email companies when I get something from them to see if I can get you guys a discount as well, because I want you to have rad stuff. I also want you to be able to get your rigs on the trail. So all those codes are in the description, plus I put them on the website. So if you go to coltbuildsit.com, member discounts, you will see all the discount codes there for all this cool stuff. That light is rad. Ooh. And because it's LED, I even have a controller for it, so I can turn it down and up and even just make it like percentages. Bam. So to the awesome fan that made me that, I moved it there, and then old Cadillacus, I moved his over here over my plasma table. Bam. And as you guys know, I have every US state on my wall, and I even got the Virgin Islands, and then I'm trying to collect all the Canadian provinces, so I have all of North America right here, and then I got some really cool foreign plates over here as well. But every now and again, somebody sends me a super cool plate that I gotta hang up, and this one came from Dave Voorhees. These are the copper historic plates. I mean, this thing's got some weight to it too, so super cool. He said it was on his Manx buggy, so I want to thank you, Dave, and I will find a place for it somewhere on here. All right, guys, 3 vehicles, 1 video, Comanche, Tacoma Pacer / Jeep. Wrangler thing.
Make sure you like and subscribe and click the bell.
Bye-bye.